All right, hey guys, welcome to the show. So I made it back to Japan safely. As you can see, that's why I'm wearing these Japanese clothes. I'm currently in a hotel in Tokyo, and I've been here for 2 days. I'll explain why later in the video. I'm making this video because I think it can be helpful to some of you folks out there who might be traveling to Japan or traveling back to Japan in the midst of this crazy situation with Corona, Omicron, and all that good stuff. Well, not all that good stuff, but all that stuff. So, first of all, a disclaimer. I'm in no way an expert in either the coronavirus pandemic, international travel, particularly in Japan. This is just information I've gathered myself, along with some great friends of mine, and just frankly, the experiences I've gone through since coming back. So don't look at me as an authority. This is just my experience. Second disclaimer, I'm coming at you as an American living here. The reason why I say that is because depending on what country you're from, especially if you're coming from Africa, specifically where the Omicron virus originated, your situation might be vastly different from mine, okay? So just two things. One, I'm not an expert. Two, this is the perspective of an American living here, not a traveler, an American living here. I stress that because that's important. I've got some notes here. This might be kind of a long video, and I'll try to make this as orderly as possible, but there's just a lot of stuff to go over. So forgive me if some of this is kind of random and out of place. First of all, the thing I need to tell you guys is if you want to come to Japan, but you don't actually live here. In other words, if you're coming here for the first time, more than likely, you're not going to be able to come. The reason why is because last year, December 1st, up until December 31st, there was a planned policy from the Japanese government that denied new entry of any foreigners who wish to travel or wish to come to Japan, whether it was for work, study abroad, or whatever. They were not allowed to come. Residents are different, as well as people who are married to Japanese people who have Japanese spouses. So I'm sorry. And I think that applies to all countries, not just the countries in Africa affected by Omicron, but all countries. So let me just get that out there. If you want to come here and this is your first time, you're probably not going to get in. Now, there are some exceptional circumstances, and I'll try to provide a link to that, but I don't know what those are. I haven't actually gone over those. Americans, American citizens, American residents who live here in Japan, we are able to go back, but it's not going to be easy. I'll tell you that much. Let's see what we got here. Speaking of that, if you've read some of the articles out there, either from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs or MOFA, and some of the news that you might have seen, news articles, let me tell you, some of it is misleading and a little confusing because it will say outright, no entry of foreign nationals in Japan, but that's not true. That doesn't apply to people who actually live here. So when you see that online, especially if you're reading Japanese, it should say Shinki Nyu Koku Kinshi or something like that. So Shinki Nyu Koku means new entry. For residents, people who are coming back to Japan, they call that Sai Nyu Koku. Sai Nyu Koku is okay as long as you're not from particular countries that are outright banned from coming to Japan. So first of all, get that straight. Sai Nyu Koku, re-entry is okay. New entry, no. Another thing I've realized is before you take off, before you travel here, if you are able to enter the country at least, there are some documents, some very, very, very important documents that I suggest you download and get done right now. One of those is a written pledge. Basically, it's just a stack of papers saying that you won't break the laws once you get into quarantine here. And trust me, you will have quarantine for 14 days. Whether you're vaccinated or not, Japan is very strict and they don't play around when it comes to this thing. So just be prepared for that. 14 days, all right? You won't go out of your house or the hotel that they set you up with. More on that later. I'll provide some screenshots of the pledge that I got, and you can basically see what those are. I'll also give you the link so you can see the written pledge and download it too. Another thing you're going to have to download is a questionnaire. This questionnaire just provides information about you traveling, the details of your itinerary, so to speak, You can download a shortcut to your phone from MOFA's website. I'll also provide a link for that. But if you are not so savvy with the phone, feel free to print it out and you'll fill in everything. The information at first is in Japanese, but there's a drop-down menu where you can select English or whatever your home language is, right? So again, you will need the questionnaire and the written pledge. Another thing you will need are obviously negative results for Corona. If you're positive, don't even think about it. They're not going to let you in. However, if you're negative, and the test results are only in English or whatever your language is, they have to have MOFA's required format, which is in Japanese and English. Again, I'll provide a link for that too. One thing about that sheet, if you're like me, I got my test results from CVS Pharmacy, and it's a self-test. There's no doctor. And on this sheet, it states that the doctor must sign, but that's not true. There's a frequently asked question link that I'll provide. And going over that, it says that if you're from a particular country, this particular list of countries, and you're not able to get a doctor's signature, you're still okay, all right? So don't sweat about that. Again, depending on the country you're from. However, you do have to obviously have the negative result, and there are some check boxes that you have to check. Now, in America, there are several different tests for Corona. The most common one I've ran into is the rapid test, and it's the easiest, but it's not thorough enough for international travel, at least to Japan. You have to get another type of test. The one I got, and the one that seems to be most common, is the PCR test, and the PCR test is a lot more thorough. Now, the problem with the PCR test I've found is that it kind of clashes with the, how can I say, you have to get the results of this test. You have to get this test within 72 hours of your departure from America or from wherever to Japan. The problem is the PCR test results sometimes can take up to 72 hours to get into your hands. I was lucky enough. My mother, thanks to the wisdom of God, suggested I get two different tests from two different locations. One was an urgent care center, and I was in like that, out like that, but it was just kind of, I don't know. I felt like they were just rushing. They didn't ask my email. They only asked for my general information. Most locations will email you, but I guess they probably sent their results in the mail. But as far as what I know, I never even got my results. They said they'll send me a bill, but they didn't say they'll send me anything else or how they'll send it. But anyway, CVS was a lot quicker. Their turnaround time was about 2 days. Now, as an aside, I had to actually reschedule my ticket because I was getting close to my departure. I was leaving originally from 7 a.m. the next day, and my results still hadn't gotten in by the previous night. So I kind of, I wouldn't say got nervous, but just through wisdom, I suppose, I decided to reschedule my ticket to the day after that, the day after my departure. Thankfully, my results came in actually at midnight. So I would have made it, but, I kind of jumped ship early, I guess. Anyway, make sure you get the PCR test. The sheet from MOFA also describes other types of tests that are allowed, but you got to make sure it's one of those, okay? And also pray to God that you get your results in time. Because if you don't, they ain't going to let you on that plane, trust me. I was real close. Okay, so yeah, you got the PCR. You got your negative results, okay? Another document, or not a document, but another suggestion of mine before you leave, download the app called MySOS. MySOS is kind of a scary app in a way. Considering the circumstances, I understand why they're doing it, but this app literally tracks your every move while you're here in Japan. Of course, the reason for that is because when you're in quarantine, they don't want you to be going to places that you're not supposed to. You're supposed to stay in one location. So MySOS is a Japanese app. It tracks your location, but it also asks you general health questions randomly throughout the day. For example, do you have any symptoms of coughing or sore throat or headache or fever? If you do, click yes. If you don't, obviously click no. But another thing is randomly, at least once a day, they'll do this automated video call, and it's performed by a robot. It's all automated, but you have to answer that call. If you miss it, they will contact you, and you don't want to look suspicious. So for all you who are planning to kind of break quarantine and sneak out if you think it's possible, I don't suggest that. You better stay put, because they will find you. And I've heard stories of people who have just gone out roaming about and they've gotten caught. It's not worth it. You can be deported. There could be fines, and you may never come here again. So just don't test the system. All right. So again, the things that I suggest you get, print, and download. First, the written pledge, the questionnaire from MOFA, the MOFA designated format, which is in English and Japanese. Again, the link is there. My SOS app. And of course, I think that was it. Let me make sure. Hotel. The notes might be a little out of order. Yeah, I'm sorry. I got a lot of notes here. Written pledge, questionnaire, MOFA, my SOS. Okay, so just those 4 things, all right? Written pledge, questionnaire, MOFA recognized test results in Japanese and English, and the My SOS app, all right? Okay, so once you get to the airport, you get your flight situated. You might run into a problem. I ran into a problem. I live in Osaka, and I made my flight. I booked my flight through a third party. This third party, they booked my flight from Charlotte, where I live in America, to Boston. From Boston, I was to travel to Narita Airport in Tokyo, and then from there to Osaka, Kansai International Airport. However, and I didn't know this, I had no idea. Currently, in Japan, if you are traveling or if you're returning to Japan from a foreign country, any foreign country, you cannot, I repeat, you cannot use any public transportation, no buses, no trains, no bullet train, and no airplanes. That's right, no domestic travel for 14 days. So I knew this. I knew this to an extent, but because the third party had scheduled my flight and they didn't notify me of any issues, I thought it would be okay. Because after all, I was just transferring, right? But that wasn't the case. When I got to Boston, Japan Airlines, which was one of my transfers, they told me that domestic flights in Japan right now for people returning to Japan are actually not allowed. So if you live in Osaka like me, I suggest you get a flight that goes to, and you're American, right? If you're coming from America, get a flight that goes to LAX in Los Angeles first, because that flight goes directly to Osaka. If you travel from Boston or any other places, they'll probably take you to Narita or maybe Haneda first, and you're gonna have to quarantine there, which is what I'm doing here, right? So right now I'm in Tokyo, and I have to quarantine here for 3 whole days. I'll go into that process later. But yeah, if you live in Osaka, please try to get a direct flight there. And if you live in Tokyo, obviously don't go through Osaka. Go directly there. It'll be a lot less on your plate. Okay? So once you get to the airport, whether you're in Osaka or Tokyo or wherever, you're going to have to go through processing. Now, I'm not going to lie. My processing took forever. I got to Narita Airport around, 3:30, maybe 4 o'clock at the latest. I didn't leave that hotel. I didn't leave the airport till 9:30? 9:30. I was there for a long time. And to be honest, a lot of it was just waiting around for stuff to come back, my test results. So once you get there, the first thing that'll happen is you'll probably stand in a line. There'll be some staff members there. As soon as you get off the plane, they'll ask you to stand in a line, maybe 2 lines, and they'll just walk you from place to place. The first place you'll go to will be this little area where they'll lead you to sit down. On the plane, actually, they should provide you with the documents that I discussed earlier. Actually, 2 of them, the written pledge and then the questionnaire, the written questionnaire. So they'll give you a chance to get those on the plane. And if you, for some reason, don't get those, the staff will ask you, do you have these documents? If you don't have them, I'm sure they'll give them to you. You have to have them before you get out the airport anyway, right? So you'll get those documents, you'll write your information on them, and then you'll go to this little area where they check your passport, make sure everything is okay, make sure that your test results for corona are negative. Now, these are the results you took before you left America, before you left your home country, right? So make sure you have that. And after that, they'll have you take a saliva test. They'll have a little tube and you have to spit into this tube. Now there will be a little black line and you have to make sure your spit, your saliva goes up to this black line. Now my mouth was very dry. So I found myself having to really work to get the spit. It wasn't really a pleasant experience and it was hot, but they'll be patient. Just do your best, I guess. So once you get the saliva test, they'll walk you into this area, and this was all Narita, just mind you, right? Your airport might have a little different system. In Narita, after we took the spit test, they took us to this area where they walked us through the My SOS app, what I was telling you about before. So if you didn't download this thing, they'll give you a chance to do it. And you also have to have a Japanese phone. If you've never had a Japanese phone before, you're gonna have to get one because your phone from your home country won't work here, all right? Now, if you already live here, I'm assuming you do have a Japanese phone, but just tossing that out there, you have to have a Japanese phone to download this My SOS app, right? So they'll lead you into the area. They'll tell you how to download My SOS. They'll tell you how to use it. Now, it's mostly in Japanese, but they also provide many of the announcements on the app in English. There's also a way you can switch the language, but it doesn't switch the language of the home page. So if you need some help, just send some screenshots to a friend who speaks Japanese or a Japanese person. I'm sure they'll be glad to help. Anyway, once you get the My SOS app downloaded, they'll walk you through it. And like I said, this app is very important. They'll be calling you. So make sure you have your phone on at all times, all right? Okay, so we got through that. Let's see. My SOS app. Okay, so yeah. After the My SOS app has been downloaded and confirmed, you'll also be given what's called a health card. This health card shows that you've arrived on such and such a flight from such and such a country, from whatever destination. Not destination, whatever origin you flew from. After that, you'll wait in a designated seat again. Like I said, a lot of waiting for your saliva test to be processed and the results to happen, the results to be announced. They'll announce your name. They'll put a number, a 4-digit number on the back of your passport. So keep that handy at all times. The announcements will be announcing people's number. So take a look at your passport. And fortunately, the staff speak English. Everyone spoke English. Not everyone was the best, but they tried their best, and it was good enough, I think. So if you don't speak Japanese or you're not that confident in it, don't worry. So I'm not gonna lie, depending on, I don't know who you are, your test might be quick or it might take forever. Mine was on the forever side. I think I was sitting there for, I don't know, 2.5 hours, just waiting there for my test results to come. So hopefully your test results come quicker. Again, I'm not sure. It just depends on maybe your DNA, depends on what number you were in line, but results vary, all right? So boom, saliva test, you got that. Let's see, so once you are determined to be negative, no corona, you'll be good to go to immigration. From immigration, you will collect your bags, and then you'll go through customs. Now, at this point, I wish I could say you're home free. You're able to go back to your apartment, your home, wherever, but that's not the case. Even for Japanese people, you have to have a 14-day quarantine. Now, what they'll do is they'll drive you on a bus to a government designated facility. Most of the time, that will be a hotel. Now, in my case, my hotel was paid for. Glory to God for that. But I think depending on where they put you, I don't know what factors they determine this by, but you might have to pay. You might have to. I pray to God that you don't. I pray that you have a free hotel accommodation, but you might not. So just prepare for that. Be sure to ask the staff what your accommodation will be, where it will be, the name, the contact information, and of course, the price. That's important. Now, once they drive you to the hotel, depending on what country you've come from, your time in the hotel will be different. In the case of America, in most states at least, we have to stay here for 3 days. This is my second day. If you come from other countries, you will have to stay here 6 days. Another country will be 10. And in some cases, I think you'll have to stay here the whole 14 days. So it might be rough. Now, on your last day, there will be another spit test. They'll leave this vial, this tube outside your door. They'll make an announcement first in Japanese first, then in English. So once the second announcement comes, they'll tell you, okay, open your doors, and you'll probably have to put on your mask. You'll take the kit, and then you'll do the spit test. Once you do the spit test, then you'll open your door again. I'm sorry, that's not right. According to the information I got, you won't open the door. You'll have to wait for a quarantine officer to come by your room, and then they'll take the vial for you. All right? And so after they take the vial, they'll test you. They'll test the results. They'll test you for the results. And if you're negative, then you are free to leave the hotel. But depending on if you've done your 14 days or not, you may not be home free yet. And I'll explain more of that later. All right. Let's see. I want to talk a little bit about your hotel life here. It's interesting. They treat you well, but it feels a little bit like prison. The reason why is, first of all, you can't leave the room. By no means can you leave your room. If you have some type of problem, there is a call center you can call. They're open from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. every single day. However, you can't leave the room. You're stuck in here. My room is pretty nice. It's kind of a mess, so I might or might not provide pictures. It's like a little business hotel, but I mean, for free, it's not bad. And they actually give you free meals, 3 meals a day, 3 hots and a cot, I guess. These meals are usually like Japanese bento with rice, maybe katsudon, stuff like that. And the meals are free. They also come with water. Now, according to the sheet I got, you can also have your family, or you can actually order stuff online to be shipped to you, but it can't be raw food. It can't be cooked food, and it can't be alcohol and some other things as well. You cannot drink at all during your stay, so be aware of that. It will possibly affect, your test when you take the saliva test. So when these 3 meals come out, they're usually at certain times of the day. There's one at breakfast, right? Breakfast is at 8 o'clock, I believe. Lunch is at 12, dinner is at 6. And from what I've seen, the meals actually come a little bit earlier than those times. Now, when you take the spit test, you're not going to be able to eat before you take the spit test. You take the saliva test first, and then you will be allowed to eat. Another thing, every morning you're here, before 8 o'clock, or by 8 o'clock rather, you have to take your temperature. They'll give you a thermometer like this, right? And coming from America, we usually, when I was growing up, we would stick these things in our mouths, but don't do that. In Japan, they stick them in their underarm like that. So definitely don't do that, all right? Once you measure your temperature, and there will be a packet of information that you get that gives you a QR code that goes to a website. Once you go to this website, you have to put your temperature in and the time every single day by 8 o'clock. If you don't, rest assured they will call you. They won't forget. You might, but they won't, okay? And again, the staff are really nice. The call center is available in both Japanese and English. I think many of the staff are not actually Japanese. Their Japanese is very good, but I can tell from their accent that they're from different countries. But they're all very sweet people. These couple of ladies always answer my phone One of them speaks very good English, and she's also just a very kind person, so you'll be well taken care of. All right, let's see what else. Scheduled meals, announcements, put on mask, yada, yada, yada. Okay. So, unless you spend your whole 14 days here, and this is the last stretch of the video, for example, 3 days, 6 days, 10 days, once they take you back, now let me rewind a little bit. If you don't spend your whole 14 days here, once you spend your 3, 6, or 10 days, you'll be riding a bus back to the same airport that you came from. They're very exact and precise with this. You'll go to the exact same airport. Now from there, if you haven't completed your 14 days, you still can't use public transportation. You can't use a bus, you can't use a train, no bullet train, nothing. And of course, no airplanes. So what do, right? There's a couple different options you have. If you are so blessed to have someone living nearby, or if you happen to just live nearby, you can get a family member, a friend, a trusted person, maybe even your boss, I don't know, to come and pick you up, and then they would drive you to your house. That's obviously the best option. If you're like me and you live in Osaka, I asked my neighbors to come by, but it was really far, like 15 hours without toll roads, and it was just a tough trip. And I don't really blame them. They just weren't able to do it. And part of it was scheduling. The day that I'm going back, they have to work, so it's just not gonna work out. So that leaves two options. You can either do what's called a hire, which is basically a private driver. They'll pick you up at the airport and drive you to your home. Or if you have a driver's license, a Japanese driver's license or an international driver's license that hasn't yet expired, because they only last a year from what I remember, there's a rental car. Now these rental cars, depending on how far you are, can be expensive. Kind of expensive or very expensive. In my case, quite expensive. And the reason why is because these companies, they charge for a type of service called one-way. One-way service, basically, you drive the car from one store to another store. It's the same company, and you can just drop it off there. And when you do your reservation, they'll actually, especially if you do it online, you'll actually be able to see how much it is, how much they charge by mileage, by kilometers. Again, the farther you live out, the more expensive it's going to be. And if you take toll roads, it can really add up. Now, one thing with the toll roads here in Japan, they're called ETC. Most of you probably already know if you live here. There is a link I'm going to provide that will give you an estimate of how much you might pay on the toll roads. And I'll also give you some links to some of the car rental websites that you can use. I used Toyota rental car. It was very easy. There's other ones like Nippon rental car. There's Times. I don't think Budget is out here, not in Japan. But anyway, I'll give you some links. Just check them out. Again, if they have English, you can check out the English, but a lot of them are in all Japanese. So, you might have a friend call for you, or you never know, the person on the phone, if you call them, they might speak good enough English. So just try your luck. All right. Another option is if you don't have a license, if you don't have money, if you don't have people who can come and pick you up, and this might be an option, but I haven't looked into it. You might be able to have, or you might be able to extend your hotel stay at the hotel that they designated for you, or a hotel near the airport. I'm not sure how viable that is, or even if it's allowed. But again, the staff here speak English, so please feel free to ask them. Or perhaps if a friend of yours is going through the same thing, I'm actually still going through this, so I don't have all the answers yet, then definitely give them a call. Now, what I'll be doing is, this is part 1 of the video, because I'm still in quarantine. About 2 days from now, I'll be getting a rental car and driving back to where I live in Yao. And I'll also kind of talk about that trip too, if I feel it's necessary. So again, I don't have all the answers, but I'm just telling you what I know. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. Yeah. So again, it's not easy. It's going to be tough. But again, if you live near Tokyo or Osaka, because these are the main international airports, then you might be lucky because you have someone who might be nearby. But the farther out you live, it's going to be tough. So please just think about that. I'm not sure when Japan will be opening its borders again, or at least lifting this 14-day quarantine. It's anybody's guess. So weigh your options, and best of luck to you. Godspeed. Hope this video was helpful for you. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time.